Emily Blake had spent most of her life being underestimated in rooms she helped build. At family dinners, her brother Jason was praised as the future of the Blake empire, while Emily quietly handled the numbers behind the scenes. She negotiated contracts, fixed financial disasters, and kept their business alive through market crashes nobody else even understood. Yet somehow, every success carried Jason's name. Emily learned early that in her family, loud confidence mattered more than quiet competence. And she was tired of it. The breaking point came during a luxury gala celebrating what everyone believed was Jason's biggest business victory, a multi-million-dollar international merger that would supposedly secure the family company's future for decades. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above tables covered in gold linen. Investors laughed over expensive champagne, while cameras flashed around Jason like he was a celebrity. Emily sat silently near the end of the table, listening. Then Jason's wife, Illa, leaned back in her chair with a smile sharp enough to cut glass. "You know," she laughed, "Emily's real talent is probably in the kitchen. Every family needs someone good at casseroles." The table exploded with laughter. Jason smirked. Even Emily's father looked amused. No one noticed how still Emily became, because the truth was something none of them could imagine. The merger they were celebrating wasn't Jason's achievement. It was hers. For 11 months, Emily had secretly structured the deal through a private holding company under a separate corporate identity. She had negotiated every clause, secured every investor, and designed every strategy while allowing Jason to believe he was the face of the operation. Not because she lacked confidence, because she wanted to know exactly how far her family would go in dismissing her when they believed she had no power. Now she had her answer. Emily calmly reached for her phone. She made one call. "Terminate the agreement," she said softly. "Effective immediately." The room fell silent. Jason frowned. "What are you talking about?" Emily stood slowly, picked up a small presentation remote, and pressed a button. The massive LED screen behind the ballroom stage changed instantly. Jason's name disappeared. In its place appeared Emily Blake, founder and lead architect, E. Blake Holdings. Gasps rippled across the room. Investors exchanged stunned looks. One executive nearly dropped his wine glass. Emily's voice remained calm. "The merger was never Jason's deal," she said. "I built it. Every negotiation, every investor relationship, every strategy." Jason stared at her in disbelief. "You're lying." Emily looked directly at him. "No," she said quietly. "You just never bothered asking who was carrying you." And with a single sentence, the illusion collapsed. The investors began whispering immediately. Some stood and walked out. Others demanded answers Jason couldn't provide because he had never truly understood the deal he'd been taking credit for. Emily simply picked up her purse and walked away, not angry, not emotional, free. By the next morning, the story had spread across every business outlet in the region. Silent executive revealed as real architect behind major Blake Holdings deal. The headlines shocked the public, but they didn't shock Emily. Because for years, she had lived inside a system designed to make her invisible. She remembered being 23 years old, staying overnight at the office to repair company financial projections, while Jason attended yacht parties with clients he barely understood. She remembered her father introducing Jason as the future of the company while Emily stood nearby holding the reports that kept the company solvent. She remembered every family dinner where her accomplishments were politely ignored. And worst of all, she remembered the conversation that finally changed everything. 2 weeks before the gala, Emily had stopped by her parents' house to deliver paperwork. As she walked down the hallway, she overheard her mother speaking on the phone. "Thank goodness Jason is finally stepping up," her mother had said. "We were worried Emily might try to involve herself too much. She's just not built for leadership." Emily stood frozen outside the room. Not built for leadership. After years of carrying the family business through crisis after crisis, that moment changed her permanently. She realized she no longer wanted their approval, she wanted distance. So instead of confronting them, she made a plan. And now the plan was working perfectly. Within days, Emily launched her own company officially, E. Blake Capital. Clean, independent, entirely hers. The same investors who once dismissed her as too cautious suddenly wanted meetings. The same executives who spoke over her now waited outside her office, asking for partnerships. Emily accepted the opportunities calmly, but she never forgot the years of silence that came before them. Meanwhile, Jason's world was collapsing. Investigations into financial misconduct began surfacing after auditors discovered suspicious commission transfers connected to fake consulting firms. Deals he had signed without understanding the details were now being reviewed by regulators and shareholders. For the first time in his life, Jason had to face consequences without someone else cleaning up behind him. One afternoon, he arrived unexpectedly at Emily's office. Gone was the confident golden son everyone once admired. He looked exhausted, smaller somehow. Emily allowed him to sit across from her in silence. Finally, he spoke. "I didn't know the company was yours," he admitted quietly. "I thought you were just helping." Emily almost laughed at how perfectly that sentence summarized her entire life. Just helping. Helping while carrying entire departments. Helping while solving problems nobody else could fix. Helping while everyone else collected applause she earned. "You didn't lose the company because of me," Emily said softly. "You lost it because you thought leadership was something people handed to you." Jason lowered his eyes. For once, he had no response. Months passed. Under Emily's leadership, E. Blake Capital expanded rapidly. She rebuilt the failed merger into something stronger, cleaner, and more ethical than the original structure. Her company became known for transparency, innovation, and opportunities for women entering industries where they had long been ignored. But the most surprising moment came when the original family firm, Blake and Sons Holdings, began collapsing under financial pressure. Board members panicked, clients left, debt mounted. And eventually, they did the one thing they never imagined they would have to do. They called Emily for help. She arrived at the emergency board meeting wearing a simple navy suit, calm and unreadable. Her father sat near the far end of the table, looking older than she remembered. The company attorney cleared his throat nervously. "We would like to discuss a possible merger between Blake and Sons and E. Blake Capital." Emily smiled faintly. "A merger," she repeated. "Interesting." The CFO shifted uncomfortably. "We believe your leadership could stabilize the company." For years, those same people had excluded her from executive meetings. Now they were asking her to save them. Emily slowly opened her briefcase and slid a folder across the table. It wasn't a merger proposal, it was a buyout, complete ownership transfer. Her father stared at the documents in shock. "You're taking over the company?" Emily met his eyes steadily. "No," she said. "I'm rebuilding what should have been mine to lead from the beginning." By the end of the day, the board signed everything. Blake and Sons Holdings officially became Blake Holdings. Emily removed the word Sons permanently, not out of revenge, out of honesty, because the empire had never truly survived because of the sons. It survived because of the daughter nobody acknowledged. But success changed Emily in unexpected ways. At first, she thought winning would feel like revenge. Instead, it felt like peace. She moved into a new home overlooking the city skyline, quiet, warm, filled with sunlight and plants she finally had time to care for. No tension, no criticism, no performances, just stillness. One evening, while unpacking old boxes, she found a note she had written to herself at 19 years old. "If they ever make you feel small again, build something so big they have to say your name to survive." Emily sat there smiling for a long time, because she had done exactly that, and now she wanted other women to do the same. So she launched the Blake Initiative, a mentorship and funding program for young women entering finance, business, and technology, not networking dinners filled with ego. Not performative empowerment speeches, real opportunities, real capital, real mentorship. One of the first girls accepted into the program was a brilliant young software developer who had been rejected repeatedly by companies that called her too intense. When Emily handed her the acceptance letter, the girl began crying. "I didn't think people like you noticed people like me," she whispered. Emily gently squeezed her hands. "I noticed," she said softly, "because I used to be you." That night, Emily walked through the city alone beneath glowing skyscrapers. For years, she believed success meant finally earning love from the people who underestimated her. Now, she understood something different. Success wasn't convincing others to value her.
It was learning to value herself without needing permission. Weeks later, Emily attended a global finance conference as the keynote speaker. As she stepped onto the stage, thousands of people applauded. But the moment that mattered most happened afterward. A young woman approached her quietly and said, "You made me believe I don't have to shrink myself to succeed." Emily smiled, because that was the legacy she wanted. Not revenge, not headlines, not power, permission. Permission for other women to stop apologizing for ambition. Permission to walk away from rooms that only valued their silence. Permission to build their own tables instead of begging for seats. And as Emily looked out across the city lights later that evening, she finally understood the truth her family never did. She was never meant to stay in the kitchen. She was meant to build the entire empire.